This is the Let's Get Real Estate Show with your host, Danielle Chiasson.
Full-time investor, strategic consultant, motivational coach, sought-after speaker,
and host of your #1 real estate investing show, Let's Get Real Estate,
where real people are doing real estate.
Hey everybody, it's Danielle Chiasson here, and we're back with the Let's Get Real Estate podcast, and this is where I bring to you real people doing real estate. And today, I've got Milena Simzik with me. Woo woo!
Woo,
always.
Sorry, I was going to say thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no worries, hon. I always love having another woman on the show because, as you know, we work in a man's world, really, but more and more women are emerging on the scene. And what I love about you, you're not just another woman, but you're a young woman. Like, you're only 27 years old and you are rocking it right now in real estate. So, having said that, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience and share with them a little bit about Milena so that they can get to know you. So you're now 27. You got started in real estate when you were 24 in the Windsor, Ontario area. So how about you tell us a little bit about how you tripped into real estate at the age of 24?
Yeah, for sure. I was born and raised in Windsor. My parents, they came from Bosnia and that war and that whole situation. So I realized I kind of had a good opportunity being here in Canada, and I definitely didn't want to not take advantage of that. So they worked very hard their whole lives. They let me stay with them throughout university, and I went through nursing school from 18 to 22. And once I got into nursing, a year in, COVID happened, and I worked through the entire COVID-19 pandemic in the ICU in Detroit there. And it was kind of a reality check for me, like, myself and a lot of my coworkers essentially thought we were, gonna die from working at this job. And I realized, like, I had to have other things set up for myself and for my family because, we didn't have much support over here, all our families back home. So I stumbled into real estate. I found the Win City networking event in Windsor. And, I joined that group. I was looking at how other people like me were doing real estate, buying with their regular jobs. And I decided, I'm going to start buying real estate, gain that financial freedom. And for my first property, I bought a 6-unit building using my savings for my nursing job, obtaining a mortgage through that. It was a residential mortgage. You can get that through RBC for 4 to 6 unit buildings. And, I house hacked it, put the bare minimum down payment that I could, moved into that property, and, kind of took it from there. I bought another single family home that I converted into a duplex, and I was able to build a high net worth and some cash flow that allowed me to quit my job and pursue my passion. And I became a realtor, started a realtor team, and here I am today. I have like the Win Social Realty team here in Windsor. I run Windsor REI Social here with Brandon Finn, the largest like real estate investor networking group here in Windsor. And I got that financial freedom. I'm out of nursing here, and just really thankful and grateful for everything I've gotten so far.
And not just your financial freedom, you also got your time freedom because now you're running your own schedule instead of having to run around the schedule given to you by your employer at the hospital, right?
Right. That's true. I think like running your own business definitely has people, you're still working very hard, it's not like, I'm serving, somebody different. I'm serving myself, I'm serving my goals, but also my clients. So you don't get out of that. You don't get out of work that way, but it definitely is better to have more control over my own life and my goals and where I'm heading essentially.
Yeah, and not have a ceiling financially either. So there's a lot of great benefits, but ultimately, you just said something there that I want to repeat back because a lot of people that get into real estate think that it's an easy life. And there's a saying that I say all the time that I joke around when things get tough in the office here. I'm like, yeah. And they said real estate was going to be easy. Right. And
Right.
so it's a bit of a running joke here in the office, but really a lot of people think that, you just buy a house and that's it. And you get to collect some money and you get to retire early, but there's way more work behind the scenes than that. So I'm glad you pointed that out. You're still working. You're still working.
Oh yeah. I'm working more hours than I did as a nurse. Like I feel like I got the how do you say, like the blunt end of the stick for nursing. Like, I worked as an ICU nurse in Detroit during COVID, and this is difficult. Like this is still difficult, but it is very rewarding. Like my previous career was rewarding. This is extremely rewarding, but it is not easy. Definitely not easy. You have to learn how to deal with a lot of problems and change as a person in order to be able to deal with those problems. Yeah, I agree 100% on that.
And so I want to ask you this. If there's some young people, or even doesn't matter if you're young, but some new people that want to get into real estate and they want to do what you did and find maybe a small building or a triplex, duplex, quad, anything like that, and get into real estate and kind of start working their way out of their job by doing that process, what would you say was the biggest thing that helped you in that? Because you said you went to Win City, which is another real estate group in Windsor, and you did a lot of networking. And before we got on this call, we talked a lot about how networking, and we're going to dive deeper into this, by the way, how networking and specifically social media helps your business. But how did that networking help you get into your first building with 6 units?
Absolutely. Yeah. I could not have done it if I didn't go around the right people. Like nobody really in my current friend group and my family was into real estate at all. So the best thing I had was podcasts. And when I discovered that networking group, just to be around those people and seeing that they were just like me and they were doing these amazing things is is insane to comprehend. So there's a common saying, you're basically the 5 people you spend the most time with. So just being around like real estate investors pushed me to get that first property. Like my initial plan was to do a live and flip with a single family home, and I met someone who encouraged me to go bigger than that. So if you know Aditya Soma in Windsor, he was actually my realtor when I first got into real estate, and he was the one who pushed me to go bigger there. And I can't thank him enough for doing that. And yeah, it's you just have to be around the right people, learn from them. Like we're human beings, we mimic the people we're around, and yeah, it's super important.
It's absolutely important. So having the right people with the right mindset, your realtor was that. But the other thing is, how does a 24-year-old get enough money for a down payment for a 6-unit building and qualify for that mortgage? So you did all of that on your own, or am I wrong in saying that? Did you have a partner?
It was all on my own. I could definitely explain how I got that money. So my first nursing job, I made $100,000 a year. The reason I worked in Detroit was because I was making American money. And when you convert that to Canadian, you make about 30 to 40% more than your average nurse. Plus the wage over there was higher. I got scholarships throughout university, and I worked a factory job while I was in university. So I was actually able to save money going through school. So I saved about $50,000 going through school. I saved even more money my first 6 months of nursing. I put in about 70 to 80,000 as a down payment for that 6-unit building. I bought it for $420,000 at the time. Windsor was dirt cheap, so I got very lucky there. You can't buy that anymore in Windsor, unfortunately. But yeah, I put that as my down payment. I was like left with, maybe 5 to 10K after that. And I still had a bunch of renovations to do. So I worked overtime at my job, poured everything into that property. And luckily, it worked out. And then I bought my second one a couple years later after I saved up enough money again. And yeah, that's how I did it. It was a lot of hard work, and it took me God, it took me 4 years to save up that 50K and maintaining my grades at the same time. But yeah, that's essentially how I did it.
That is absolute determination. And I just want, like, I really want to showcase you and empower the young people that are listening to this podcast. I think every young person needs to listen to this podcast because I think it's very inspiring. Like, look, if you do the work, grind it out for a few years. And actually, you were mentioning before we jumped on this call that you had first seen me at the multifamily conference, and
Yeah.
Grant Cardone was there. And I remember Grant saying, like, look, man, you don't get to have an easy life if you're building. If you're just starting out, you need to put your head down and you need to work hard, and you need to work long and hard on the front end so that you can get to where I'm at, he said, and then live a great life on the back end. But you do need to do the hard work when you're building. And I think that, again, coming back to what we had said about how real estate is work. People think that you can just buy a property or two and then you just get to be on cruise control, but it doesn't work that way. It does take a lot of work and effort. It is work, but you do have benefits of having control over your life and the timelines and where you spend your time and efforts and energy on. So, I mean, there's great benefits to that, but you do become a small business owner essentially, right?
Right, exactly. It's the freedom. Like like you're willing to work that hard just for the freedom. And in hindsight, like the 9 to 5 was probably easier. You know, you have a set timeline, you have secure income coming in. And when you own your own business or full-time into real estate, you don't really have that, but you do have control over your time. And I don't know, like humans, we have that innate like need for freedom. So maybe that's what we're working so hard towards. I'm still trying to figure out the why, like why are we torturing ourselves like this? But but it's worth it. Like I don't know why, but it is worth it.
Well, I think once you have 50, 60, 70 doors and you have some income coming in and you can start pulling back a little bit and having more time freedom on your side, I think then you'll realize what the why is. And I think at the end of the day, you know it's there. That's why you're working so hard, because you know on the other side of this hard work is going to be an awesome time. I mean, you're 27 years old, you're going to start wanting to settle down and have a family and have kids. And then, you know, if you don't do that for another 5 or 6 years, imagine what you've done in the last 3 years, what you're going to do in the next 6 or 7. And then when you start having kids, you'll be able to actually spend time with them and not be that working mom that has to get up and super early to get their kids off to daycare so that they can get to work for 8 or 9 and then, you know, work all day, come home and then cook and clean and do laundry in the evening. Like it's a hard life. That's a hard life too. Maybe there's more structure, but that's a hard life.
I was going to say that was like one of my main motivators. I would see some of my nursing colleagues like 9 months pregnant working on the floor. And in the States, you don't get much time off. You only have 4 weeks and then, you know, with your baby, and then you have to come back. And that was the main motivator for me as well, because I did want kids in the future. And I said like I needed to gain some sort of financial freedom before I considered that. So yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. And then just being able to go and volunteer at the school or go on the school trips with them and that sort of thing. It is a lot nicer. I had that flexibility when I was a mom. And I just can't imagine all the moms that have to go to work every day and then come home and cook and clean. Sure, it's easier in the sense there's more structure. And when you leave your job, you can leave it at work, 5 o'clock, you clock out. When you're a business owner, you don't get to do that as much. I think the challenge is for business owners is to create that structure yourself in your day. You have to build that because you don't have a corporation or another business doing that for you. So, and I think that's what most people struggle with probably as small business owners. Okay. So let's shift gears and talk about social media, because I don't even think you're a millennial. You're Gen Z. I think you're Gen Z, right?
I am literally like, I'm right on the cusp. Like I'm a 96er. So I think like Gen Zers started in 97 and the millennials are 95. And I'm just like in the middle, the void there. So I don't identify with either.
So you get the best of both worlds. So depending if you're hanging out with older people, you can be millennials, and you're hanging out with younger people, you can be Gen Z, right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's a good way to look at it. I like that.
I love it. You're a hybrid. Okay.
So hybrid.
Having said that, social media is a huge part of both the millennial and Gen Z worlds. And, us older people are just trying to like keep up to you guys. But let's talk about how we already talked about how networking is big. And by the way, for anybody listening to this, if you're in the Southwestern Ontario area, we have where she is in Windsor. She has a fantastic monthly in-person networking group there called Windsor REI Social. And if you're in that area, try to line it up so that you're there and just get to know the players in Windsor and what's going on there, because it's still really affordable. And actually, if you do end up going there, you can introduce yourself to Milena. And if you want to look at some properties while you're down there, I'm sure herself or somebody on her team can walk you through some investment properties. Because when it comes to the price points, sure, they're higher than they were when you started in the buying back in 2019, but ultimately the prices are still very affordable for Ontario pricing. So anyhow, it's still a very attractive market. And the other thing is too, there's a lot of growth happening in Windsor. It's crazy. I saw a lot of industrial buildings and stuff. Like, you guys are expanding still quite a bit out there. So
Yeah. It's crazy what's happening here. I was born and raised here, and I haven't seen so much activity or traffic than I have within the past few years. I can't believe Windsor has traffic now, like we never used to. So,
right.
yeah, we have like multi-billion-dollar developments coming here. We have the largest cable suspension bridge coming here, the Gordie Howe Bridge, multi-billion-dollar. I don't know why people aren't freaking out more about it. Like, it's a marvel of engineering. And the Stellantis, the electric vehicle battery plants as well, bringing thousands of jobs here. I actually have clients that are buying here with me that are going to be working at this factory. So it's insane what's happening in Windsor right now. We still have so much more room to grow, and just the geography. We have the strongest cross-border connection. We're one of the warmest climates in all of Canada. I can't see us not growing. So, yeah, I'm glad people are appreciating Windsor. I've been here my whole life, so it's nice to see.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of growth there. Like I said, like, people, if you're not looking at Windsor, you should be looking at Windsor, because the growth over the last decade in Windsor alone has been really phenomenal, and it hasn't slowed down. It's actually on the uptick, continuing to do better. So the economy there is definitely healthy and growing. But having said that, you have this networking group out there that you started a year and a half ago. You're there in person. So if anybody wants to go down, check you out, they can. Probably, do you have a website where you have the dates with your events?
I do. Yeah, you can just go on milenasimsic.com or search up literally Windsor Real Estate Investing Networking Event, and we're one of the first results to pop up on Google there.
Yep.
Yeah, or go on my socials. Like, we're always posting when we're doing our events there.
So I love that. For the investors that are listening, if you do want to go to Windsor, if you have a family, you didn't hear it here, but if you have a family event, you need to go to Windsor, line it up with that social group, and then you can write off your gas or whatever expenses when you go down there, and then get to visit your family while you're down there working. Anyway, so what I wanted to say is, okay, so you got this networking, and I can't say it enough, that I'm a huge networker. And everybody who knows me knows that it's the number one marketing strategy in my business. Having said that, though, social media is a close second now, and you've done a lot. So you started in a networking room, got your properties, and then just expanded. And now you're really hitting it up hard on social media. So tell me more about social media. You got a great following. I'd love to know, I guess, the things that worked for you on social media, maybe the things that didn't. What are the challenges you encountered? So if there's anybody out there in real estate or just as an entrepreneur wants to leverage social media, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is it's 100% worth it. Your audience is on there. A common complaint I hear is from real estate investors and realtors is my clients aren't going to be there. My audience isn't going to be there. They're looking for the older generation because they have more money. Believe me, the older generation is there, even on TikTok. Like, I see my mom scrolling on TikTok all the time too. And the statistics show it as well. Like, the large majority of the world is on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, etc. So I built my entire business off of social media. When I was preparing to quit my nursing job to go become a realtor, I knew I had to do something to get that network, because I truly, like, I had a small circle from when I initially did my real estate investing, and COVID kind of wrecked all that up because we weren't able to really meet people for a year and a half. So I only really had my nursing circle in Detroit, where they're not going to buy with me here in Windsor. And then I don't really have much family over here. So I looked into social media, and I knew this was going to be my avenue to gain that network. So I started doing videos on TikTok, and out of my main focus was to provide value and inspiration to people. So my first video, I talked about how I got that first 6-unit building. And that video blew up to over 100,000 views. And from there, it got me hooked to make more and more videos. So yeah, essentially almost every day I would post. My following grew substantially. I think I'm around 30,000 on all my platforms right now after a year and a half. But it's worth it. Like like, I've met you, like, I'm on a podcast with you. You guys found me on social media. I've met so many amazing people just by building that network there. So yeah, I would say, like, it's worth it. And your main focus should be providing value and inspiration to every single one of your posts. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you. The audio cut out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am so glad you said that. I am absolutely so glad you said that, because the one thing that I'm always telling people is lead with value. You need to lead with value first. And then people will see that, hey, you know what? This person cares and they want me to succeed. And then they're going to want to follow you and get on board. Ultimately, the old school days of selling, and asking, and trying to, like, get people to buy and push them into that, it's really gone. And people don't like that anymore. So if you lead with value, show people why they should follow you. And if you share the value that you bring to them, then they're just going to automatically get on board. I'm so glad you said that. And I think that's the key on social media.
Mm-hmm. I 100% agree. I think, like, people's attention is being pulled at every direction, and there's so many people that are providing value in some way. So you really have to find a way to stand out, and you give and you give and you give and you give, and the returns naturally come. You never have to ask. People will ask you, what do you need, after you give them so much, right? So yeah, I try to not, the only things I really sell on my social media are my listings, but even that, that's I try to provide a form of value through that. It's like, okay, here's like a good opportunity here in Windsor. Yeah, so I 100% agree. Like, you always have to think about your audience. Like, don't think about yourself, think about what value you can provide to them, and it's so much more fulfilling that way as well.
Yeah, I had a coach early on tell me, when you're offering an opportunity to somebody, you should always think about what's in it for them and lead with that, right? And then if they're interested, if there's value in it for them, then they'll put up their hand and want to learn more. And then that's when you can start having that conversation, right? And so I think it's really important. Now, what is it that you would say, because you mentioned that there's a lot of people that are doing that and they're offering value on social media. So how did you build out into a 30K following across your platforms and entice people? Because now people aren't just following either. They're being more selective about who they follow, because they want to see what they're interested in their newsfeed, right? And so, like, right. How do you entice people? Like, what type of posts or what things do you lead with to capture that attention so that they can listen to more? Because people bounce after 3 seconds on social media. It's crazy. It's really crazy.
I agree. The 3-second thing, on top of providing value, now you also have to grab their attention and make it entertaining. So that's not to say like if you provide value and you don't focus on that other thing that you're going to fail. As long as you're consistently posting and you're providing value and you're continually getting better, you will eventually succeed on social media. But yeah, that 3 second thing, I've definitely had to improve like my editing techniques and my team, and think about how we can grab people's attention better, essentially. As for the value, I think about, I have a certain person in mind every time I make a video. It's like, okay, what does this person need to know in order, for them to succeed at something? So a good example would be like I provided some helpful websites. This got like 500,000 views on TikTok. It was singlekey.com, right? So a lot of people don't know that you can affect your tenant's credit score, also help your tenant, raise their credit score when they're paying their rents on time. So I thought of who that might be helpful to. It's kind of hard to explain. Like it's almost like you're putting yourself in the shoes of the other person, and then you think about what you know and what they don't currently know and how it can help them. So what I tell people in order to do that is to literally like write down that person on a piece of paper. Like, how does their day look like? What are they doing? What are they thinking? What are their pain points? And then look at those pain points and figure out video ideas from that.
I love that. And that goes back again to knowing your avatar, knowing your audience, know your like who are you targeting? So when you know what you're trying to target and you know the profile of that person, then you can, like you said, I love how you visualize it though. I mean, you're writing it down and you're like you're actually in your mind visualizing talking to that person. And I think if you can do that, that'll help a lot of people that are really uncomfortable in front of the camera, because I think that's the biggest issue that I get with people. They're like, no, I'm awkward. Who's going to listen to me? No, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not handsome enough. I'm not charismatic enough. I don't have the flair or whatever it is. And I mean, to this day, I still feel that way, but I still get on camera and I still get on stage and I still, show up for this podcast. And here's the thing, people that your tribe will follow you, people that follow your energy or attracted to your energy will follow you. And there's a tribe for everybody, right? So I love that. Build your avatar in your head and talk to that avatar. And it's got to be the person that you like too. It's not just who you need for your business, but who you need that you like in your business. And then that you'll attract that person. So I love that. But let's say, so with TikTok, okay, let's say somebody is really, pushing back with social media. They're like, I don't understand it. I'm 47 years old and, it's too much technology for me. That's a really valid challenge for people because not everybody grew up with technology. And so what would your advice be to them to get started?
I think whenever you want to run any kind of business, you're going to have to learn skills that are not appropriate to your strengths. So just think of it as another skill that's necessary to learn in order for you to succeed. Because I did grow up with the internet. I did grow up with YouTube, but I was never on social media before I started this TikTok and everything. I thought TikTok was stupid. I thought posting on Facebook was stupid. If you look at my social media, like my Facebook a year and a half ago, I posted nothing. I just had it on there to get messages. It was a skill that I had to develop and continually learn. And there's so many skills that I'm learning now that are not part of my strengths. You can't rely on only your strengths in order to succeed in a business. You have to continually adapt and learn in order to succeed in any business. So I would say don't be discouraged if you have no experience in social media. It's simply a skill that you are able to learn no matter what age you are. There's 80-year-olds on TikTok with 2 million followers sharing their stories. Age is not an excuse to not learn this. It's a valuable skill to learn.
I 100% agree. At the end of the day, learning social media can be very daunting if you've never been on social media. And I remember going through it myself. And ultimately, you just got to get in it and start working it. And you're not going to break the internet. You're not going to break Instagram by getting on there. Just get on it, start learning it. And if it's not perfect, it's okay. Just keep at it. And then eventually you start learning the platform, and then it becomes easier, right? I think you can take a shortcut if you have a teenager in your life, maybe a niece and nephew, a kid, neighbor's kid, like hire the neighbor's kid to cut your grass and ask them about Instagram while they're there. Like, honestly, leverage what you can in order to get that information, right? But yeah, you're right. You just got to like bite the bullet and do it. And yeah, it's tough though. It's tough sometimes for people. But getting in front of the camera is really hard for people too. Do you have any tips for people like to get in front of the camera and kind of overcome that fear as well? Because I think the biggest thing is people care about what other people perceive them to be. And so they're scared that people that they know, their friends and family, are going to see them in front of the camera going, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, absolutely. When I've always been very introverted in my life, and when I first started filming videos, I was absolutely terrified. When I put out that first TikTok video that blew up, I literally felt like I was gonna throw up. Like I'm like, okay, now everybody knows. Now I'm in it. I'm telling you, I felt sick for a week straight after that blew up, but I knew it was something I had to do. So the main thing that helps me, again, it's just a skill. You don't have to be naturally good at it. Some people pick it up faster than others. I don't think I was the type of person that picked it up faster. It literally took me over 2,000 videos at least to get to the point I'm at today. I put out 500 videos within the past year, and there were thousands before that I didn't edit or put out or anything. So I would suggest, like, take a camera, while you're cooking or cleaning or doing whatever, put it in front of you, let it record, and talk to it like it's your friend. Like, literally, like an insane person. This is what I used to do. Like, I would talk to the camera by myself, and it worked. Like, it's just practice. It's just a skill. The more and more you do it, the more you find ways to improve in front of the camera, you're going to improve. Like, there's no doubt about it. If you do it enough, you are going to get better. So I would suggest just practice. You don't have to put out anything. Just practice, and eventually, like, you're naturally going to get better.
Yeah, that's great advice. Just practice it until you're happy with the result and start posting. And actually, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you this. You're going to post something you're not happy with, and you need to just do it. Like, you're never going to be happy with the results. And I don't know how many times I do recordings and I'm like, okay, I don't care. Like, I just send it out to the team to edit because I'm like, I can't. Like, if I wait until I'm happy with it, it's just never going to happen. So done is better than perfect, right?
Right, exactly. I'm the same way. I can't tell, like, I maybe been happy about a few videos out of the 500 I put out, but I'll be honest, like, I'm almost never happy about anything that I put out. I know it sounds depressing, but as you said, done is better than perfect. And I could do it over and over and over again and still never get it perfect, but it's more important to get it out there.
100%. And I'm really glad that you're really honest here and saying that I'm rarely happy with what I put out, because I think people see others on social media and then they think it looks great. And they're like, oh, obviously that person is happy with what they're putting out. But the answer is like, no, that's not necessarily true. And so you just have to say done is better than perfect. And it's okay that it's not 100% where I want it to be, as long as the messaging is getting out there, right? So what do you do with how do you, like, is there anything that you do actively to monetize social media? How else do you use social media leverage in your business? Do you do ads, like paid ads? Some people are doing paid ads. Some people are doing, there's a link tree. So some people are using the link tree for links, maybe to their networking group or maybe coaching or maybe the realtor stuff that you're doing. So what are you doing specifically to monetize your time that you're putting into the social media? Because here's the thing, social media is very time consuming, very time consuming.
Yeah.
So how are you monetizing them?
That's a good question. So at first, it was mainly just obtaining clients from social media to go into my realtor business, and then eventually I obtained enough leads to build a team underneath me. So that's like main one right now. The second way is I do have realtor mentees right now. So I basically teach them the systems that I have in social media and EXP Realty in order to, help them get leads in different cities as well. So I have seven, I just started this a few months ago. I have 7 mentees that kind of naturally fell into my lap. They were messaging me on social media asking for mentorship. I wasn't planning on mentoring anyone, but they wanted to know exactly what I did to achieve like this quick success on social media. So I basically systemized it and gave it to them. So those are the main 2 ways at the moment. Yeah, I don't really do any like sponsorships. Like I could. I've had a lot of requests, but I haven't really looked into doing sponsorships. Like I just put out my videos to provide value and to, get those people into my business. But yeah, you could definitely make money off of social media through sponsorships, through selling your products. The more, influence and followers you have, you can, sell even more things on your platform. So yeah, those are the main 2 ways for myself though.
Yeah, we're not going to discount lead generation because lead gen through social media is powerful, and that's going to help you build your business and get brand awareness too. That's the other thing. So people know who you are when they're shopping for a realtor in Windsor. They're like, "Hey, I know this girl because I've seen her videos," right? And so when you lead with value, they're like, "Oh, she's going to help me, teach me because she knows what she's doing." So that's so critical. Wow,
Right.
I love all of that. Love all of that. So, what's going to happen with you now? So, what are you focused on moving forward? So now you've got a nice size portfolio. You're in real estate, by the way. Congrats for going vertical with your time and building a real estate team because that really complements you as an investor. And what's next for you? What are you looking at moving forward, especially in our
Yeah.
economy right now?
Uh, Absolutely. I plan on growing the realtor team more here for sure. I just got an office, so we're opening next week, and that's like a huge milestone for me. They were working with me in my house with my puppy. Like, thank God for them. They were so patient with me. So that's like a major thing. I want to keep growing the team. I want to help them succeed. And then I want to grow my portfolio even larger. So I am looking for that next big building. And those are, my 2 main goals for the next year. Honestly, for 5-year goals, I'm still trying to clarify that, but I know I want to, continue helping others, influencing others, helping people in their realtor business and taking it from there. But yeah, I should clarify the 5-year a bit more. I got the 1 year in mind, but that's basically it.
Oh, it's always a struggle though, because then when you think you figure it out and then something happens and then you got to go back
Yes.
and change it all again. So sometimes it's easier to
Yeah.
do 1 to 3 years, right? 5 years,
Right.
you just want to have more doors in your portfolio and it's nice to have a number and clarity there. But even
Right.
if you can't get that much clarity, it's also good even just to look out 3 years, right? And then reverse engineer what you need to do today in order to make that happen. So yeah,
Makes
no, I
sense.
love that. And I think it's important too to let the audience know, like, have goals. Don't just go in and blindly work because then you're maybe going to spin your wheels in the mud a little bit. So if you have goals, something worth working for, that'll help you get up in the morning motivated and keep going, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It goes back to that why, I guess. Yeah, I feel like at least for me, the whys are always changing. I don't know if that's been your experience. I know there's like a deeper one I haven't figured out yet. The 7 layers, I think they call it. But yeah, I agree. Like you know, reverse engineering is definitely a great idea.
Well, if I can mention about the why, I've been asked a lot of times, what is my why? And I'm not the norm. I don't know. I tend to not be the norm for a lot of things, but I will tell you, like I went through when I first started in real estate and I had coaches and the why was a big thing back then. It was like find your why, find your why, find your why. And that's all I heard back then. And I did not connect with that. I mean,
Right.
ultimately it's like, yeah, I want to have, a better life and time freedom and financial freedom and provide for my kids and set my kids up well and all of that. But that didn't drive me. And so I
Mhm.
didn't connect with the why. And finally, one day, I just realized like for me, failure is not an option. I know this is my path. This is what I'm doing. I want to, have a business. I want to be in control of my own life. I don't want to answer to anybody else. I don't want to be handcuffed to a job. And so for me, my purpose was failure is not an option. I'm going to build a big successful business and failure is not an option. So I think sometimes the why just doesn't resonate to some people. And I think that's okay. I spent a lot of time trying to get there and I just couldn't get there. And so if you don't have a deep why, I
Mhm.
think one day it will show up and same for me potentially. But
Mhm.
for now, this is just, I just feel in my bones. I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. And it sounds to me, it's the same for you. You're just like, no, this is the direction I need to go in. I need to build my financial future and I'm going to do that through real estate. And you just know that's what you're doing. There's nothing
I
wrong with that.
agree. Everything you said, like exact same situation for me. I have a couple coaches, and it's always the why, the why, the why. But I'm like, I'm doing it, like I'm going towards it. Why do I need the why? Like,
Right.
why can't I just
Right.
keep going, and then maybe I'll figure it out on the way, right? Like you figure out things through actions, anyway. So,
I
but
agree.
yeah, that's a good point.
I agree. Why do you need the why? So anybody who's listening and doesn't connect with the why, don't break your head. Like I spent way more time and energy and effort trying to figure out this why. And I thought there was something wrong with me because I couldn't connect with it until I finally just realized, you know what? It's just not for me. And that's okay. And that's
Right.
okay. And so there are some people. So I'm glad I'm not alone and you're there with me.
I love it.
So ultimately, I just want to share that, with other people too, because I do know some people do struggle with it too. So it is what it is. And it's just sometimes a different perspective. Sometimes it just has to look a little bit differently for people. It's akin to me to meditation. People are like, oh, you need to meditate. You need to meditate so you can ground yourself. Well, I don't know. Some people ground themselves through active movement, like a walk in the park. That's not meditation, but it's a form of meditation for me. And I've
Right.
had somebody tell me, like, my daughter rides horses, and there's a lady that goes there and she's there at the barn 3 days a week and she's grooming her horse and riding her horse. She's like, that's my therapy. And so,
Right.
what it looks like for you might look different, and that's okay. So, anyway, I don't want to go on a tangent with that, but I think it's important for people to know, like, maybe something works for the masses, but it's a slightly different for you. And you just have to maybe reframe something in order to make it fit inside your box because everybody's unique and different. And I think we need to honor that.
Right. I agree 100%. I resonate with that too. I was just reading a book and they said you need to meditate and I could never get into it. I'm doing the thing regardless whether I meditate or not. So I'm just going to keep going at that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's just sometimes it's just not for everyone. Different things work for different people. So yeah,
Yeah.
100% agree.
100%. Okay. Well, look, we are at time. So we're going to have to wrap it up. But if there was anything that you could tell anybody who's out there listening right now, if you had a ninja tip, something for them to take away, if nothing else, what would it be?
Well, that's a hard one. I would just say, just do the thing. Literally, do the thing. You know what you're supposed to do. Just do it. It's not going to be easy. You could find workarounds like meditation and finding your why, but at the end of the day, just do the thing, and you'll figure out everything along the way. So
Yeah.
that's my piece. Whether it's social media, whether it's real estate investing, whether it's educating yourself, like just do the thing to get to your goal. And we all know what it is. Sometimes we just need that push. Yeah.
Yep, do the thing. I love that. Do the thing. All right. Well, listen, Milena, it's been a pleasure to have you on. If anybody was to come or anybody in Windsor or wants to come to Windsor and connect with you, how can they reach out to you or find you?
Yeah, for sure. Milena Simsic on all of my social media platforms. You can reach out to me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever. MilenaSimsic.com if you want to email me or reach out, or if you want to come to my real estate investor events, just search up Windsor Real Estate Investors. I'm like the top result there for Eventbrite if you wanted to come to our next event. It's every month. Everybody's welcome, even if you don't have a property yet. Don't feel intimidated. Please come. Like, it's a place for learning and networking. So, yeah, that's basically it there.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I appreciate having you on the show, and I appreciate you for everything that you're doing for the investor community, because as you know, I'm also out there trying to help others grow. And ultimately, I just want everybody to find their freedom, whatever that looks like, right? And so, Milena, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to have all of that information for anybody who's listening and wants to connect with you. All of that's going to be in the show notes. So make sure you go scroll down and find all of that. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast so that Milena can have lots of exposure with other people, because what she's doing, people need to know and see her. So, Milena, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Danielle, for having me on. I love this experience with you and finally, talking to you. So, yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, you're quite welcome, honey. You're quite welcome. All right. So this is Danielle Chiasson signing off for the Let's Get Real Estate podcast. This is where I bring to you real people doing real estate. Bye for now.